All right. Well, thank you so much for talking to the Illinois. My first question is a pretty basic one for you. Why did you decide to run in this race?
Ben, I had a lot of opportunities. So I'm a lawyer. I was practicing law, and there were some offers that came along. I was approached to run for judge. I was approached to run for state representative, but I chose to run for this race. I felt Dick Durbin's been there 38 years. He's a career politician. He embodies everything that's wrong with our process, our political process. He's a far left partisan. His wife has gotten ridiculously rich as a lobbyist. His son's a lobbyist. He takes care of the wealthiest corporations, the biggest corporations, has done nothing for the middle class, has stood idly by watching the middle class get destroyed, watching Illinois get destroyed. And, I think that at some point in time, somebody has to step up and say, enough is enough. Move on, guy. Go get a job. See how hard it is for the rest of us out there that have to make a payroll, you have to make a mortgage and what have you. Dick Durbin's really never had a job that's not a government job. So me, I was the longest serving sheriff in Lake County history, 2006 to 2018. Took an office with a lot of problems. I transformed the office, made it one of the top sheriff offices in the country as we achieved accreditation on state and national level. And as I said, I was under budget 12 years in a row, served as coroner, transformed that office, the Lake County Coroner's Office. I'm a former county, state, and federal prosecutor, small businessman. I'm a constitutional law professor and a business law professor. I have the perfect background. And when I got in this race, there were different dynamics and what have you, but you look at it right now, cities across America going up in flames, big city mayors telling police chiefs to stand down, not letting them exercise their training, not letting them put to place their experience, and being told what they can and can't do. Totally unhealthy. So now we have a guy who's running for United States Senate, who has arguably more law enforcement experience than anybody that's ever been there. Certainly, I would say than anybody that's been there, that's there right now. I mean, that's a perspective that I think the country could use right now. Secondly, somebody that's not, beholden to the biggest corporations and is going to work for the small guy, the small businessman, is going to work for the middle class. That's me. So I feel like I'm the right guy at the right time.
You mentioned your experience in law enforcement, and law enforcement is coming under a lot of scrutiny right now with some of the protests we're seeing across the country. So how do you feel that your background in law enforcement may affect your candidacy?
I think that I'm somebody that has that background that people, desperately are going to want. Our signs and our literature says, send a sheriff to Washington. I mean, think about it. We're in this crazy times. Nobody seems to, not nobody, but the left seems to not really recognize any evil. And, I'm somebody that was a guest of Israel, traveled the world, is familiar with foreign policy very much in terms of the dangers, recognizes the problems with narco terrorists coming in across Mexico, smuggling. You look at the women that are being put into prostitution, and you look at the terrorist component as well, and the people, the jihadists that want to come to America and destroy this country as well. So all of those come into play. And I'm somebody that's spent a lifetime working with the FBI and the other federal agencies, keeping America safe, keeping Lake County safe, keeping Illinois safe. And I think that's a skill set and acumen, intellectual acumen that's desperately needed at this moment in time.
And what's your plan for defeating a powerful incumbent? Dick Durbin, as you mentioned, has been in office for many years. He has millions of dollars in his campaign accounts, and FEC records show you have $20,000 or so. How do you defeat a powerful incumbent in a state like Illinois?
Right. So it's not all about money. Here's part of the problem that I've had, Ben. So Dick Durbin uses the IRS to go after political opponents. People know that. So they get nervous writing a check. I have had contractors that wrote me big checks as sheriff, but they're afraid of Dick Durbin and his minions that, that they'll never longer see any business if they write me a check. People are terrified of winding up on a list with their name so that Dick Durbin can go after them in a vindictive way. It doesn't matter, Ben. So I'm going to win Southern and Central Illinois. I don't think anybody's going to tell you differently. That, you know, there's no way that I'm not going to win those counties in big numbers, Western Illinois. So the battleground really becomes up here in the northern part of the state. And I was the longest serving sheriff of Lake County. I ran as a Democrat initially. You know, my politics are complex and complicated. You know, I'm somebody that identifies with the middle class. My dad was a labor lawyer. And I'm somebody that has not been hostile towards unions, has not been hostile towards, you know, the working class, recognizes the fact that 1% has more wealth than the bottom 90%, that we can't, you know, neglect the middle class and survive as a party. So people like what I'm saying. So our grassroots is really growing. When you look at the number of small dollar donors that we've had recently, it's just through the roof. If you follow us on social media, you'll see it's through the roof. So the election is going to take place in Northern Illinois. So Donald Trump loses Lake County by 21 points. Mark Curran loses by 137 votes out of 250,000. In all the other elections, he wins with big, big numbers. Mark Curran does. Mark Curran's going to win DuPage County. Nobody thinks otherwise. Mark Curran's going to win McHenry County. I sound like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, third person. So I'm going to win Lake. I'm going to win McHenry. I'm going to win DuPage. No doubt about it. Kane County, we got a good ground game. And I feel like there's going to be a bounce back in Kane County. It's not going to be as blue as it was 2 years ago. So I think we have a solid chance there. And then Will County, Donald Trump lost by 5%. I'm going to do better than Donald Trump in these collar counties. You know, that I don't have, and he's my president, and I think he's done a good job, but I don't have his baggage. I don't, you know, people haven't witnessed me go after people in a way that they find, you know, unseemly, what have you. So I'm going to do better than him up here. And so what's the bottom line number that I need in Cook County? It's not that high. Pat O'Brien's polling around 40% against Kim Fox. I probably need about 25% in Cook County. So I lived in Chicago on the southwest side. My brothers live in Chicago. I went to high school in Catholic High School in Wilmette. I've been somebody that has worked, had offices in the Chicago, knows people in every neighborhood in the Chicago. We have a phenomenal ground game in Cook County. We're going to do well. So that's the map. We've had enough money to buy millions of pieces of literature and tens of thousands of signs. So yeah, we don't have a ton of money. We've been able to advertise a little bit beyond that, but you know, that's what it is. It's about a grassroots ground game.
You led into one of my other questions. You mentioned President Trump. Right now, you know, he is the standard bearer of the Republican Party. And so how do you distinguish yourself from Donald Trump when this is a state he did not win, did not come close to winning? I don't think there's anyone that expects him to win Illinois in 2020. And so how do you get your message out when many people might be focusing on the presidential election and not the Senate race?
Right. So, you know, another dynamic in my race is Willie Wilson's a third party candidate in my race. And one of the things, he's running on reparations for blacks, but one of the other things that he's highlighting is that Dick Durbin has been a horrible United States Senator for the black people. You know, all you have to do is go to East St. Louis, Illinois. And like I said, I lived on the southwest side. You know, we went, you know, as a prosecutor, I was always going into projects looking for witnesses, you know, whether it was, you know, the Robert Taylor homes or, you know, all on and on. So I've been in all the projects throughout the city. And what I can tell you is that East St. Louis is arguably the worst city I've ever seen, certainly in America. It's third world. You have entire blocks where every building on the street is burned down. And they've been in that state for 30 years, left to stay in that state. I mean, what does that say? What does that say about a guy that grew up there, whose parents were from there, who was molded by the teachers at Assumption Catholic High School in East St. Louis, and that just turned his back on that community in a horrible way? I mean, this guy is one of the most powerful people in America. You know, #2 in the Democratic side of the United States Senate for all these years, and just has done nothing. So he's basically about taking care of himself, taking care of his family, his own, maybe the wealthy donors, but that's about it. and Willie Wilson's hitting that hard. So, that's going to help me very much as well in terms of a current victory.
My last question for you. One of the biggest issues facing the United States Senate right now is what to do with the vacancy on the U.S. Supreme Court that was created by the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. How would you handle that as a senator? Do you think that the Senate should move ahead before the election and fill that vacancy? Or should Senate Republicans follow the precedent they sent 4 years ago with Merrick Garland and wait until after the election? How would you approach that if you were a senator right now?
Yeah. Ben, can I just go back to your last question real quick also, if you don't mind? So just, you asked me, how do I distinguish myself? So I'm a little different than Donald Trump. I was somebody that led on immigration reform. If you look at me, I was, Vice President Biden flew me to the White House to discuss immigration reform. Similarly, I've led on criminal justice reform. Donald Trump's my president, and I'm very proud to run on the record that he's put forward. So I have no problems with that, but we are different, in some aspects. With regards to what are the most pressing issues you said also facing the Senate, I think, certainly we're living in a global world, and China, in this virus that they've unleashed on the world, and, whether it was bioterror in the lab, we can't say that for sure, but we can say that they knowingly unleashed it on the world when they had knowledge as to what this virus was and allowed travel from China to all the other parts of the world, including the United States. So that's a big issue out there, trade, getting people back on their feet, with regards to the virus and this long time shutdown. With regards to the appointment, Ben, of Amy Coney Barrett, I would vote to confirm her, and would do so easily. And I'll tell you this, Ben, so I think she's a great justice. I think she's a great mind. And the reality is that, politicians, they get in trouble by saying one thing, and then 4 years later or 2 years later, they have to say something different, a la Mitch McConnell, what have you. I'm not somebody that pretends. I'm being elected as a Republican. I'm a barely independent guy, but by the same token, 2 years ago, you had the Senate, so you were able to block Merrick Garland, and now you're able, for the same reason, you're able to confirm Amy Coney Barrett. Do not believe for 1 second, Ben, that the other side wouldn't do the exact same thing. So, I'm just honest about it.
Well, hey, Mark Curran, thank you so much for speaking with Illinois.
Yeah, Ben, thanks. Thank you, Ben, for the opportunity. I really, really appreciate it.